if we ask God, or we really are pondering about like how to use our time and how to develop other things or use talents to bless our lives and others, like he'll show us a way and he'll show us how, and to be patient in the slowness.
Hey there, Mama. Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. I'm Kirsten Tyrell, and I am the host of this awesome podcast where I get to sit down with moms from all over the world from various walks of life to share their stories of inspiration, knowledge, and all kinds of good stuff to remind you what a truly marvelous mom you are. So sit back and relax, or plug your headphones in and keep doing whatever you're doing, and enjoy today's episode of the Marvelous Moms Club. Hey, Marvelous Moms, welcome to a fabulous episode of the podcast. I'm chatting with somebody who's, I told her, has been on my Instagram feed for such a long time because we're connected through so many people. And I've just felt this like yearning to reach out to you for a long time. And I guess now's the right time. So welcome Melanie Burk to the podcast. I'm so excited to get to know you and to share you with everybody else.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really happy to have you. So tell everybody, first of all, I always like to get a little introduction on your mommy life, how many kids you have, and just kind of what's going on in your household right now.
Well, as we speak, I can hear my one of my daughters banging on the piano downstairs.
I could hear that.
Oh dear.
No, it's not like too loud, just when it was quiet for a minute.
Okay. All right. I have 3 girls and I just had a boy. So
Yay.
I have 4 kids, yes, and they're ages 6, 4, 2, and 3 months.
Wow.
So we have 4 under the age of 6.
That's so fun. Wow.
It's pretty fun.
So that sums it up, right? Like enough
Yeah.
said, that's my life right now.
It's a little bit chaotic, but really fabulous.
That's amazing. I'm so happy you got your boy. I'm sure people tell you that all the time. They say that to me. I only had 2 boys and then had a girl, and they're like, oh, you had your girl. I'm like, yeah, I was pretty excited about it.
Yeah. We were actually very shocked. We had been expecting another girl. So
Yeah.
it's fun. I'm grateful. I'm hopeful. Maybe not so many feelings as he gets older, especially in the 2 to 4-year-old range.
Yeah.
They just seem to have so many feelings. But I don't know. I've had people tell me that there's not much difference in some of that. I don't know. I have no idea. I was joking with a friend that I feel like the more kids I have, the less I know.
It's so true. You think you've got it figured out because you've learned one personality or one way
Yeah.
to do things, and then the other one throws you for a loop, and you're like, well, now I have to figure out a whole new set of rules or a whole new set of like how I'm going to do this.
Yes. And it's just so many different personalities,
Yeah.
and you're trying to recognize, okay, what are your needs? Who are you? Like what,
Yeah.
so definitely it's so fun. I don't know. Being a
Yeah.
parent's pretty magical.
It really is. And I recently started homeschooling, which I still feel like a little bit of crazy, a little bit of like, what am I doing? But mostly like this cool thing happened to my heart where I was like, "Ugh, this is so weird." I watched my first grader walk into school when school started for the school year. And I was like, my heart kind of broke a little bit because I was like, I don't want him to be gone all day. I want him with me. And he's my difficult child. Like he's the one who throws me for a loop and keeps me on my toes all day. But then I started to realize like, we weren't given families and we weren't put here to like endure it or to deal with it. It was really to enjoy each other. And like, I only get my kids for such a short amount of time. And that's not my only reason for homeschooling, but it's a huge bonus. Like, I'm so excited to spend all my time with my kids and truly have relationships with them and know them in such a cool way. So,
Yes, I've been thinking a lot about that, intentional parenting of like really
Yeah.
utilizing the time that we have them. I am so impressed that you homeschool. We attempted 1 year at homeschool.
Don't be impressed. I started like 3 days ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. And it was, I have so much respect for those who homeschool because it is definitely a lot of work.
Yeah.
And in different ways, it can be such a blessing for what
Yeah.
those kids need. And it's interesting. I feel like as we've talked about lots of children, I feel like each child has such diverse needs. Some really need to go to school, some need to stay
Yeah.
home, but regardless of what their needs are, we really don't have them that long. Even if you homeschool, I mean, it's just the beginning part of their lives.
Yeah.
Really, it's so short. And I feel like with each child, it goes faster and faster,
Yeah.
Also the sleep deprivation becomes more and more and more, right? So it's like this weird paradox, right, of time where
Yep.
you're like, am I so sleep deprived that it's going faster? Or
Is time moving quicker, or am I just like really starting to slip off the
am I in the
edge?
haze, right? Yeah. No.
Yeah. That's so true. So tell everybody, in addition to the four kids who are so cute, who I love seeing on my Instagram feed, and how many of them have your cute dimples? Because if you guys have never seen Melanie in real life, she's got the most adorable dimples. Did somebody just walk in?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So cute.
I think they have a radar for knowing when I'm doing anything, right?
They
Like,
absolutely have radar. I like sometimes I told my husband this morning, I'm gonna just lay in bed because when you get up, you can kind of sneak by them and get work done. If I get up, it's like magnets are just attached to my body. I'm like, I'm just gonna lay here as long as I can.
my goodness,
Lots
yes.
to do, but I just can't
Oh,
start it yet.
so funny.
Okay, so tell me
Okay,
about the dimples. Tell me how many kids have your cute dimples.
so three out of our four, maybe for sure half.
Oh,
We're kind of debating. We're trying to see if the baby. We think he has one, but then the one that doesn't have my dimple is like my spitting image,
she
except
looks
for the
just like you.
dimples. Like it's
Wow.
my mom. Whenever she sees it, is just like I can't
It's like
because
you. It's like a
like
time warp.
yes, yes. Just so. Anyways, it's pretty fun.
That's so cute. Well, like I said, I love seeing them, and they just bounced into the room for a minute, which we will probably have cut out of the episode, but still,
Yes,
so cute. I love it.
they're a ball of energy. So
Yeah,
fun.
they're totally supposed to be. So tell me about your like the business side of your life, and I know you're involved with the Small Seed, which I love. I love Lizzie. I love what she's created and you've contributed to. So tell me kind of what you do there. And then I know you were
Hmm.
talking to me before. You have a lot of businesses. You sell businesses. You're a total entrepreneur. So tell us as much as
Yes.
you want to tell us.
Okay. Well, I guess just a little backstory. I never ever imagined that I would be an entrepreneur or
Hmm.
anything. When I went to school, I decided to become a graphic designer, which at that time was, not very popular at
Right,
all. And
right.
when I told my dad, he said, "What is that?" It was just not even known. But at the time, what appealed to me is that, okay, here's a career that I could do a little bit on the side if I needed to, or, be able to do a little bit of. And then after I got married and I graduated, I had married my husband older, and I thought, oh, this is the way to do it,
Yeah.
to support through school or anything. And then we'd been married a few months and he decided he wanted to change careers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
then
That's
he went,
fun.
yeah, it was fun. So he went to school for 7 years again. He changed from engineer to medical. So at that
Wow.
time, I was like, well, how are we going to make this work? And that's when I felt really strongly like you need to start some businesses. You need to work using your talents. And because I had picked something that was very versatile, it was such a blessing. I was able to be a full-time mom during the day, and my kids were so young at that time that they did take long naps, and so I would work during nap time and at bedtime, so like the fringe hours. And so my house was never clean, and I didn't have time for shopping trips. I didn't have time, or
Yeah.
anything. So we saved money, and I was able to. Oh, it was such a blessing. I was able to support our family through all those years.
Wow.
Um, and then, as he finished school, I kind of thought, well, should I be all done? Should I finish? And just felt like, no, you can lessen a little bit, but still keep at it a little bit. That I've got these talents, and because I think my job is unusual, that I can work, and not just mine, but I feel like because of the rise of the internet and
Yeah.
everything we have in social media, it is possible to be a stay-at-home mom and work and have a career. It doesn't mean that you have it all per se.
Right.
I hate when people act like, oh, you can have it all because you can't.
Your mess can look a
Um,
little different than my mess, and you can have
right,
those
right,
pieces, but it
right.
doesn't mean it's
But I do
perfect.
exactly like I think it's not perfect, but I feel like you find what works for you, and just as soon as you figure it out, then something will change. But
Hmm.
so, anyways, that's a long-winded answer to say that I design. I do graphic design, and mostly through the last 7 years, I've done a lot of logos and websites and packaging for a lot of brands, all sorts. But I've kind of specialized a little bit in the niche of children's brands,
Hmm.
and have done some really fun work that I just love so much.
That's so cool.
And then I've also been able to start like a few companies. So one that is was fun to work on was Caravan. And they do like downloadable printables for your home. So everything is definitely
Cool.
inspired by my children and my family and my home and what I want for my own life. And then as far as working with a small seed, I just am on the board of advisors. So I help a lot with challenges, that we do. We just did one in early this spring about loving yourself,
I loved that. I
like,
had Kim on here when you guys had that
yeah.
going on. That was awesome.
Yes. So we had a challenge about loving yourself. So we just try to recognize as mothers and as women and the needs of kind of what we go through, how we can do challenges to help people, be happier, more joyful, and be more connected to God or each
Yeah.
other or loving themselves. So it just really depends. But as far as the day-to-day running, I would say I cannot take credit for any of that. Lizzie does so much of that. I just more help out when I can or when I feel like it's a good fit for me.
Yeah.
But it's fun to be involved in so many things,
Yeah.
and it's definitely a blessing to my life. Of letting me be able to develop more talents and share them.
Yeah.
So,
I love too what you touched on a little bit as well, like how it's not having it all. And I feel like that is such a myth. And sometimes I feel like, that weird, awkward thing you say where you're like, oh, you're just a mom. That's awesome. And I hate when that comes up here. And I hate when I'm the one to say it or when other people are, because it's never like a demeaning, oh, you're just a mom. It's like, you get to be just a mom. It can be such a positive thing. But like sometimes it's not even like we're purposefully shaming the fact that you're staying home with your kids. We know that's like the noblest of things. And sometimes, like I was talking to a friend the other day, like we feel so called to do something beyond that. And it doesn't mean that we discredit or think it's any less important to be full-time moms. It's like you said, sharing your talents. There's a need for it. If you can share it and you can make things better, if you feel like it's a time in a season in your life where you can share that, then you need to. But it doesn't mean like that anybody's going to have the perfect answer to what parenting or what womanhood or motherhood or anything looks like. It's so different for everybody.
yes. And one thing I will say, I feel like we are each given talents, and whether or not like all our talents are so different.
Yeah.
Mine is different from others. And I think that regardless of where we are as a mother, whether we have one kid or 6 kids, we should develop and use our talents. Some of those, however, might be talents that nobody knows about. My older sister has 5 kids and she is the most talented musician. She plays the organ and the violin, and she is so skilled at teaching. And she used to teach lessons, but right now she feels like her job is to help her children, but she also practices on her own, and so
Yeah.
I see her developing her talents. And so I would say that when we talk about having it all, or, I think sometimes it's easy to get in the comparison trap of like, oh,
Yes.
she's an entrepreneur. And so either we think, oh, she's not being with her kids, or B, wow, she does it all. She's so lucky. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And I think, no, I think the danger there is, what do we do with our talents and what do we do with our time?
Yeah.
So are we watching shows every night when our kids go to bed, which there's no harm in that. And I'm not judging at all, because I've been there, and I do indulge in that,
Yeah.
because sometimes when you've been with your kids all day, you just need a little break. But I also think that if that's all you do when your kids go to bed and you aren't developing your talents, I think that can be dangerous too, so I think that we've all given talents, and the important thing is to use them, but also use them in a way that you feel is best for you and your family. And so some people are able to do something that's more public, or, but I don't know. I really admire any mom who definitely works to develop herself as well as her family. And of course, the balance of that is hard, and you have to work on it on your own.
Yeah.
But I do think that we are each have something that we're supposed to do. Beyond just being a mom.
Yeah. Well, and there's kind of I don't know what the word is, but it's true, because I learned this the hard way a year ago. I still feel like I have to learn this every day. If you're not developing yourself and you're allowing yourself to fall into that trap of like, my life is so hard, I deserve this, and I deserve to like veg out every single night and not have to work on myself because I just don't have the energy. I mean, it applies to like the overall picture. It applies to different elements of of like our success and our growth in life. I mean, for me right now, my biggest obstacle is I'm so exhausted that I can't make time to exercise. But I know if I exercise regularly, I'd have the energy I needed to do all the other things. But it's like that same trap of feeling like if we can't do it all, then we just kind of freeze and we don't do anything at all. But if you stop growing, what kind of a mother are you going to be and what kind of example are you? You're not, like, you can do better. And I think that's where a lot of the inadequacy comes from. The mommy guilt doesn't come always from comparison to other moms. Mommy guilt comes from knowing deep down that you're capable of being amazing, and you've just kind of fallen into a little trap for now. I mean, that happens with social media, being on our cell phones too much, whatever your poison is, like we all have one or many of them. And it's like just finding a way to work on yourself so you have something to offer to your children. And if you have more you feel to offer that you need to offer to more than just your family, then you need to do it. If you feel called to do it, there's a reason, and there's somebody who needs to hear you, and there's somebody who needs your heart and your story. And, I mean, that's why I'm here sharing stories, because so many of them need to be shared to help people who are in the shoes I was in a year ago, where I'm like, my life is this deep, dark hole of hardship and depression, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm the worst mom ever. You know what I mean? Like, we all need each other. So
yes. Well, I also think one of the biggest mistakes is because we live, and I'm guilty of this, because we live in a world of everything so much now, right?
Yeah.
That we think that like, I need to do this, and you do this right now, and I need to do it every day, and I need to do it like to the best of my capability. And I really think that that's so harmful.
Yeah.
When we talk about things that we need to do, I tend to be like all or nothing. And I think that's so dangerous. Sometimes I feel like I'll make a list of like, okay, I need to achieve this. And then I'm like, so that means every day I'm doing this. And I think that as a mom, that's not realistic at all.
No.
And I think we have to like focus. We know what we need to do in being a mom, and let that be our focus. But then we're asking ourselves, like, on the fringe hours, how can I do a little bit, right? Like, am I exercising? Can I exercise like for 15 minutes or 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, that's not ideal. I would love to exercise for more than that, but guess what? That's something.
Yeah.
And if you do something just a little bit every day, then it becomes a habit, and it's easier to build upon that. It's interesting. So like a few years ago, we all struggle at bedtime, right? Let's be honest as moms.
Yep.
I was really struggling. My husband was in like some residency, and so he was never home at bedtime. And he just wasn't home very much at that kind of phase of our lives. And it was so difficult because I just felt like I would do every single part of every single day by myself. Mm-hmm. And by the time I get to bedtime, I was just like, oh, just can someone come and put these kids to bed and put me to bed? Yeah. I'm so tired. I cannot do this anymore. And I was so just worn out. And I just had this like, I pray a lot, and I really take my problems to God. And I just had this impression, like, maybe you should play the guitar for your kids as they fall asleep. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous, because I don't play the guitar actually, and I don't have time to learn the guitar, and this is not a solution, and this is silly, and ignored it. And for several days and weeks, it just kind of pressed upon me, like, play the guitar. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. So sure enough, I searched through our closet, and we had a guitar, lo and behold, in the closet. That I think my husband or I had taken a guitar class, but obviously not learned anything from it, or actually practiced or done anything. So I had 3 little kids at that point. And so at nighttime, I would just sit down. I'd look up like one chord online and play it over and over for like 5 to 10 minutes every night. And that was it. Just 1 to 2 chords. And I would like sing, make up songs, or just play a song, And anyways, and I just thought, well, this isn't really a solution, but here I am just trying. And anyways, over the years, I have learned how to play the guitar. Years. The S, the end being the important thing, right?
Not in 6 months.
Over time. Right.
Not in a year.
And I wouldn't even say now that I'm an amazing guitarist, or anything. But it ended up being so wonderful because it blessed my kids, like it blessed me. And it was I think for me, even more than learning to play the guitar, it was such a good principle for me as a mother in this phase that I'm at, that learning to do something or even the solution, it's not always as big as we think. Yeah. It can be so simple as playing chord on the guitar for 5 minutes every day. But if you do it regularly, it does become a habit and it becomes something big and powerful in our lives that can bless our children and can bless ourselves. And it's been interesting. So when I was pregnant this last time, I couldn't play the guitar because I was really sick at night.
Yeah.
And my kids would just beg, oh, Mom, can't you play the guitar? We miss the guitar. And I just laughed because I thought, here was something that has turned this really hard time into something magical that I was able to experience with my children, and they were able to see me learning something. I was able to learn. Anyways, it was a win-win. And I feel like I'm not saying everyone should go learn to play the guitar at that time. Because
I don't know. I've got one in my room and I'm like seriously thinking about it.
That's not all of our problems, or that maybe not be the solution to our problems. But I feel like it's a really good lesson for me that as I think about, okay, here's a talent that I have or something I would like to become a talent. How can I learn it? And I think the important thing is not to think like, so in 2 months, what is that going to look like? Right? Like, I think it's just like the slow and steady that we should be really focusing on our children. But if we ask God, or we really are pondering about like how to use our time and how to develop other things or use talents to bless our lives and others, like he'll show us a way and he'll show us how, and to be patient in the slowness of that.
Isn't that so tricky nowadays though? Like you hit on it right in the beginning. We're in a generation of now. Like we just don't have to wait for anything. I mean, I know you were around in the days of dial-up internet and it was so slow. And now we get impatient if like a page doesn't load in milliseconds, and we're just so used to that instant gratification. And I think that really has kind of messed with our perception of success and how we can achieve success. Well, if I can't lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks, then why am I even trying? Or, like how it's not fair. It's not going to come easy to me. There's things that are so hard and they come easy to other people. It's just crazy how that really does. It's affected the way that we view ourselves and what we're capable of. But I love that. Like that small and steady wins the race. So true. So true. I hear that all the time. It's such a true concept that you hear enough, it has to be true. So I know it is.
Yeah. Well, and there's a really good quote from Aristotle that I've been thinking about that someone told me on Sunday that said that our habits become, oh no, now I'm going to butcher it, but it says that we become our habits essentially, and that excellence is not so much of what we do, in one time, but more of what we habitually do. That it's our excellence can be determined by our everyday actions, and I think even more so because of social media. I mean, Instagram hasn't even been around that long. Let's see, like 3 years, maybe, really unpopular. And yet we put so much weight into that, where really it's not even that old, And I think it was really wonderful. My husband is a PA, so he works in the medical field, and seeing how much time he put into his career to change, to study. And I think of doctors, how much time, and that's a lot of time that then they're able to work on for a long time and bless so many people's lives. And yet, are we really allowing ourselves the same amount of time to learn a skill or do something? I think that we're not, because we think because of this world. And I think that's dangerous for ourselves and also for our children.
Yeah, that's true. I know that's actually really true. I was thinking about that with homeschooling, how like I decided to homeschool and I want to be the best homeschooler ever in a week. I want to have it all figured out. I want to master all the principles. I want my kids. I want to, like, even you talking about guitar, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really do need to implement more music. Like, I mean, literally, we are like not even decided on a curriculum. It's so loose right now. We're just figuring it out as we go. Yeah. And I still have this thing in my brain, even though we're talking about this, that's telling me, oh my gosh, you've got to get this figured out. You've got to like be that mom who just is teaching your kids music. And it's not like this need for him to be overly excellent or anything. It's just, I want to give all my kids all the experiences, all the advantages, and they need to do it right now. But it's seriously, it's line upon line, and it is not going to happen overnight. And they're not going to have these amazing childhoods because I have extraordinary moments all the time. It's going to be those small little moments that are going to lead to pretty cool stuff. So, see, every time I talk to somebody, I needed to hear what they have to say, honestly. So you're giving me what I need to hear today.
Well, I need it for myself too. Like, I think we all need it. Because it's so loud, this message of being, you can change it right away, you can do this right away. And
Yeah.
just, and not only that, but, very much the culture, not in the culture, but because of all the things we have, our phones, we're able to find the solutions to a lot of things instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And that is awesome. And we need to enjoy that and let it help us be more meaningful in like the small things that we're doing instead of, turn it the opposite. Like you need to do all these things,
Yeah.
like I think it's so easy for me to have these things that could be blessings instead turn into this like paralyzing fear of like, I need to do it all.
Yeah.
I need to do it all and I need to do it all now. And I need to do 200% and all these things that my
Yep.
kids need to be the most incredible musicians. And I should be a musician too, learning with them in the middle. And that they should be all swimmers and I should be swimming too. And right in the middle, and
Yeah.
not realistic. And
It's
it's
not.
also damaging to what we're absolutely actually capable of doing,
Yeah. It's so true.
So,
And the
yeah,
purpose, like why we're
yeah,
here, it's not to be perfect and it's not to
yeah,
do everything. Like how boring would that be if we were all expected to have the same exact life experiences
yeah,
and have the same set of goals? I mean, we all know that. Like we're all so uniquely different. So,
yeah.
why were we all striving to fit the same mold?
Well, I think it's so easy where we say, oh, this person does it all and this person does it all. I will tell you a secret. The only people who ask me how I do it all are the people who do not know me very well.
I agree. That's how I feel.
Because, yeah, because if you really know me, you will clearly know and see that I don't do it all. I
Yeah.
don't do it all. And there's many days where I feel like I can't do anything well. Why am I trying to do anything?
Yeah.
I think that it's just hard. Motherhood is sanctifying. It's really hard. And I feel like as soon as you get in a good place with your kids, then something changes and, you're trying to figure out. And for me, it's always, it's just such a struggle. Like on the days that I do really well, I feel like sometimes being a mom, then I'm not always good at taking care of myself. And you can't do that forever.
Yeah.
And then the next day, so I'll take a little bit more care of myself. And then one of my kids might struggle, so it's just this ever like every day, you just have to kind of think in the morning, like, what are the needs of my children today and myself? And how can I best achieve that? Along with, the list of things that your husband needs or the bills you've got to pay. And
Yeah.
uh, there's so much in today's age of what is expected of us and what we feel we need to do.
Yeah. And two, going along with that, like when we were talking earlier about, don't veg out in front of the TV all the time and wonder why you're like not fulfilled. And I think don't you feel like there's a fine line? Anytime I have this discussion, it kind of goes back and forth where it's like, be good to yourself, treat yourself kindly. Don't tell yourself you have to be everything, but also don't kind of rest on your laurels. Like you want to be working towards things, but it doesn't mean that you have to like die doing it. There's a
Yes.
fine balance there. And like you
Yes.
said, people ask me that all the time, how do you do it all? And I was like, if you come to my house on any average day, I'm vegging on the couch on my phone like you are. I just also make the other hours count double time, and I just find a way to get the stuff done so that I can enjoy the rest of my time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. And my house is not clean all the time, and oftentimes it's 4:30, and I have no idea what we're gonna make for dinner. And it's Little Caesars
Yes.
pizza, or it's like hurrying and throwing some chicken in a frying pan. But truly, like nobody has it all
Yeah.
figured out, and I don't know.
Yes.
There's just a fine line
Well,
there. Like relax
yeah.
and enjoy the journey, but don't be too lazy.
Yes. Well, and I think it's always valuable in these discussions to say that wherever you are there. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Like only you know your situations. And so first off, if you're asking the question like, well, how do they do it all? How can I do it? That's first off the wrong question to be asking. I think that if you're asking for someone else's way to balance it, that even knowing and watching them is not going to help yourself.
It's true.
Because I think you need to look internally, you need to evaluate, and we're all probably doing better than we think we are, but
Mm-hmm.
we could also all do just a little bit better. And again, it's those little things, right? Like the guitar, like it's the little things. Like, is there 5 minutes here where I could take time to stretch or run?
Yeah.
Is there 5 minutes here? And that doesn't mean like you can't pick 10 things to work on
Mm-hmm.
and try to do 5 minutes of each of those things. For me, I try to like in our family, we try to focus on like one goal per week or something,
That's cool.
So really, like when I'm trying to do something, I have to remind myself, like, you can really only successfully change one thing at a time. And then once you really get that on, so like, for example, at the beginning of the school year, I kind of sat down and I was like, what is my worst thing about myself? And it is being on time. I am the worst at being on time. Horrible. And it's one of the things I'm always embarrassed about. And I was even late to this phone call.
Only by like a few minutes, so don't even, doesn't even count.
It's something that like, and part of my fault is that I'm always like obviously trying to cram in too much into these small amounts of minutes, and then of course you have children that you're negotiating with that they actually have to wear shoes to cross the parking,
Exactly.
But one thing I did that really helped me thinking about, like, okay, how can I apply it in the rest of my life is I put like a timer. So this year I was like, I'm going to put a timer on my phone for like when I have to be there. It realistically takes me like, I don't know, 15 minutes with all my kids right now to get in the car, So how long does it take me to drive there? How long? And I'm going to put a timer on my phone. So for school, I put a timer every time I had to be at school a half an hour ahead of time, half an hour ahead. And just hearing that go off every day habitually, it's like changed my way of thinking. Like, cause I used to think like, oh, I'd look at the clock and be like, oh no, I've got a little bit more time. I'm going to cram this in, we can make it there in time. And then of course we were always late. So it's been interesting because this is the first year in my life, like my kids have been late to school once.
Wow, that's cool.
And that was, I think last year we were on time once. Like it's the total reversal. But it's made me realize like, oh my gosh, I have the power to change.
Yeah.
Like what else are the things I want? But that was the only thing I worked on.
Right.
For 6 weeks. That was like every week, like, okay, I have to be on time. And I really had to work with it. And I'm not perfect, like, because we still are late to church and we're still late to, other appointments that we have. But I feel like seeing it that I could do that for me was like, oh my gosh, I can really change other things that I'm struggling with. So now I've been asking myself, like, okay, what's another thing that I really want to change? But I think the challenge is like small little habits.
Yeah.
One thing at a time,
I love that. I really like that. I think that's an important message that we all need to hear like almost daily. Like this is an episode people should play through every week and remind themselves that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your life. It's so fun. Enjoy the journey as you're on it instead of trying to make it perfect.
Yes. And I've been reading this really good book right now by Shauna Niequist called Present Over Perfect.
Oh, I love that.
Like have it in my book stand right here. But it has been so wonderful to me because like, that's probably like, apart from being on time is that one of the things I struggle with is that I need this message more than anyone. I want to be everything to everyone, and that's impossible. I want to be everything. I want to do all the things. I want to do all the good things. I want it now. And then it leads you being able to not achieve anything.
Yeah.
And being so frantic. And so I love that idea. Like I even posted this on my Instagram recently, but I used to like talk about like, I am enough, and post that message all the time. Heard a few months ago, somebody that I really admired, Neil Marriott, she said, I'm not enough, but with Christ, I am enough. And that like shattered this whole thing I've been clinging to. Like, I am enough. I can do all these things because I am enough. I can do all these things. I am enough.
Yeah.
And then just all of a sudden giving myself permission to say like, I am not enough.
Right.
I'm not enough. I can't do it all. So what can I focus on?
Yeah. I like that.
What
a lot.
are the things I'm focused on? I can't be perfect. I can try to be perfect. And there's another quote that I love by, you can tell I cling to quotes, but from Patricia Holland, where she says, we must have the courage to strive for perfection while still being imperfect.
I like that. Like knowing that it isn't achievable, but still striving to do it.
Yeah. Like being okay. Like, okay, I want to do better. Like aiming to be better every day.
Yeah.
Like not trying to be perfect, aiming to be better. Yeah. And that, perfection's overrated anyways because you'd have no friends. Just kidding.
It's true. Nobody would like you.
Still being around by you, right? It's our flaws that I think bind us together and make it laughable, make life funny, and But I feel like letting go for me, like letting go of that thought of that I can do everything has been really freeing. I
Mm-hmm.
think for some people they need that encouragement of like, oh, I can do this. I can. And I think that is true. Like we can do it. We're doing better than we think we are. We need to love ourselves in our best efforts and all that we're doing. But also like, guess what? It's okay not to be able to do everything. It's okay to fail. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to have bad days. And as soon as you have a super mom day, guess what? A few days later, you're going to have your probably worst day. That happened to me last week.
It's kind of like knowing, like, or when you have a really bad day, you're like, man, I've got a good day coming up because I've endured
Yeah.
a string of
Yeah.
bad ones.
You can turn around and make something a good day, right?
Yeah.
It is. No one knows your kids like you do, and no one knows yourself like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that you can do it. You
Yeah,
can do it.
you totally can. I believe it. I believe it just from hearing it from your mouth. So I know everybody listening will probably feel the same way. You're
Yeah.
so sweet, Melanie. I could talk to you for hours. I feel like you just have this light about you, and it's so fun
Oh,
to hear you
thank
talk. And
you.
it's like stuff you need to be like an uplifting coach to the whole world, to all the moms, because we need that. We need those reminders. And I'm sure like it doesn't mean that you don't struggle with those things all the time, but it's still good to hear, and it's probably good to hear yourself say. It's like a giant affirmation.
Yes, and it's cyclical, right? It's like
Yeah.
I can do it all. I can do it. I can't do it all. I can't do it all. I can do it. I can do it. Like
It's so true. That's the battle of an entrepreneur, though, too. Like, that's
yeah,
not just a
yeah,
mommy thing. That is like an entrepreneur who wants to do all the businesses, have all the things, and also still have a really thriving, happy family life and,
yeah,
all the exciting parts, too. So
yeah,
there's no
yeah. And
harm
I
in that.
yeah, and I just say like wherever each of the wherever you are, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, you're doing it. And just look every morning. I just try to take some time to ponder and think, what is the most important thing today? How can I be better? Like, what are the little things I can do today? Don't make that giant list. Don't glorify your to-do list. Don't make that giant list of the 15 things you're going to do that day because that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick a few.
Yeah.
Just pick a few.
Like guitar.
Like guitar. Yeah.
I love
Like
that.
guitar.
I'm no, do not be shocked if you see an Instagram photo of me with a guitar in the next few months.
I'll be so happy and excited to see that. Although I hope I would love to see many moms learn the guitar because I do think it's soothing at bedtime and very helpful. But
Yeah.
more so, I hope that I'm reminded and that others can be reminded that, we can do great things with our talents, whether that's blessing our kids or ourselves or others, but that we have been given talents and we're moms, but we're also incredible women
Mm-hmm.
and the world needs us and the world needs our light.
Yeah.
Um, the world needs you, your kids need you, and the world needs you.
Well, really, your kids become the world. So share that with them and help them to learn how to share their light with other people. And it all really comes full circle. Like you
Yeah.
can't say you've done anything wrong if you've achieved at least a piece of that. So
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Okay, well, final question that I ask everybody that I feel
Yes.
like you don't really need to answer because you've answered it this whole time, but what makes you a marvelous mom?
What makes me a marvelous mom is that I get up each day and I try to do my best. And I don't hold on or cling to the things that I've done wrong the day before that burden me, that weigh me down, but instead I cast those off and I try again. And I try to do what is best for my children, for my family, and also for those around that I love. And that makes me a marvelous mom.
I love that. We all need to do that a little bit more. Wake up and like forget yesterday and focus on today. And I love that so much. Cast the burden behind and move on and be happy. That's a perfect ending to a wonderful episode. Thank you so much, Melanie. It's been so
You're
fun to chat with
welcome.
you and
It's been my
share all your
pleasure.
goodness.
Thank you for having me. It truly is an honor to talk and to be able to recognize that we're all there and we're all trying and just being in this great community of social media. It makes it all worth it and it's encouraging.
Yeah, it really is. I agree with you. All right, everybody else listening, have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode.